So with us today, this is also going to be very cool because I'm a personal huge fan of this person, and he's the best coach I've ever had the experience of working with, and I work with him all the time now, and I'm so grateful that he had time to do this because this is going to be great. So we're talking about Brent Scott from the Locker Room. So I want you guys all to check out the Locker Room, which is TLR Nation, TLR, thelockerroomnation.com. We'll have a link to that, here, and you should really check out their coaching. We found it here at Kale Realty. They are our exclusive coach provider for our agents, and people they just love it. It's really the best. We tested a lot of different systems, a lot of coaching programs before landing on the Locker Room, and it's by far the best bang for your buck and just so much value. But let me tell you more about Brent. Now, Coach Brent Scott made a bold career shift in 2003, leaving behind a senior retail management position to venture into the world of real estate. Like many aspiring agents, he faced initial challenges and exited the industry within 2 years. Undeterred, Brent relocated to Florida in 2005 and made a triumphant return to real estate, obtaining his broker's license. Despite navigating the turbulent market crash of 2007 through 2008, he persevered and took a leap of faith by establishing his own brokerage in 2009. Although the venture encountered setbacks and ultimately failed in 2010, Brent refused to be discouraged. He regrouped, honed his leadership abilities, and embraced a mindset of learning from failure. In 2017, Brent dedicated himself to coaching real estate agents full time, launching a highly acclaimed coaching program in Northwest Florida. Notably, 80% of his clients were fresh faces in the real estate industry, and under his guidance, they collectively earned over a million in gross commission income, a million GCI guys in 2019. Presently, Brent holds the esteemed position of national coach and trainer at the Locker Room, the real estate coaching company. He shares his expertise through engaging continuing education workshops and provides personalized coaching to offices and agents nationwide. Additionally, Brent collaborates with approximately a dozen real estate brokers, owners, and team leaders, leveraging his insights to help them amplify the growth of their organization. Brent is also the fractional CEO of a prominent real estate brokerage in Chicago, our brokerage, and he has absolutely changed our company. I've been here 14 years, and Brent came in and has really all of us have upped and stepped up our game because of his leadership. So really excited to bring him on. And also, before we bring on Brent, I also want to bring on another guest speaker that we have today, which I'm very excited about. This person reached out to me personally maybe a month ago and was a fan of the show and was said some very complimentary things about our podcast and how many episodes. I think he's listened to 400 episodes, which I don't think I've listened to 400 episodes of any podcast. So it was incredible, and I was really, really touched that he wrote me, and I basically said, "Hey, we're doing this coaching session, and our listeners can follow, our attendees can follow along, but it would really be great to do like a live one with a really successful agent." And he said he would love to do that. So I'm going to tell you about Nick Harris. So Nick Harris is a top 1% agent with Best Life in Company, EXP. Now, he is a licensed realtor based out of Metro Detroit, Michigan, with a passion for real estate that dates back to his college years. What began as a self-taught exploration of real estate investing quickly turned into a thriving career. He started his journey at United Wholesale Mortgage, but Nick knew he was ready to make the leap to become a full-time realtor. Within just 2 weeks of deciding to get licensed, he studied hard, passed the exam, jumped into real estate head first. Since then, this is amazing. Nick has closed an impressive average of 103 homes per year for the last 3 years, building a reputation as a top performer in the area. But what truly sets him apart is his dedication to not only growing his own business, but also mentoring fellow agents. Nick is passionate about helping other realtors build long-term success and showing them how to not only make a living, but how to set themselves and their families up for long-term wealth and financial security. Today, he's committed to sharing his knowledge and experience with others to help them reach their full potential in the real estate industry. We are going to have him on an upcoming episode, but you guys get access to him first. Again, Nick Harris with Best Life and Company. All right, I'm going to turn it over to our amazing coach, Brent and Nick.
Well, DJ, thank you so much for the introduction, and very flattered for the kind comments. Thank you so much. Um, in full transparency, And in the spirit of keeping it real, I want to confirm with Nick that, Nick, you and I have never met before, have we? Nick, I think you can
There we
hear me.
go. There we go. Just got it off mute.
There we go.
Yeah, correct. No, we've this is our first time. Nice to
Well,
meet you.
well, nice to meet you as well. And I appreciate you stepping up to the plate and having this conversation just kind of out of the blue. You really don't know what you're in for. Is that accurate?
That's correct. Yeah, go easy on me.
All right, all right. I'm going to do it. So, first, 103 homes per year in the last 3 years. How long have you been in business?
This upcoming June will be my fourth year, so a little over 3 years.
Fourth year. Congratulations. And so, the reason that I asked that is because there may be some people that are listening to this conversation that haven't sold 103 homes in the past year. And so, what I want to emphasize is that if you are listening to this conversation relates to you. Okay. Now, there are two exceptions. If you're a real estate agent that is brand new, has never sold any transactions, then there's another conversation, another version of this process that I can share with you that's going to relate more to you and your experience level. And likewise, if you are a team leader, a broker owner, if you're looking at a real estate organization, got another version for that. But from what I understand, Nick, you are just a single real estate agent. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so the first question that I have for you, Nick, is what are the top three things that you intend to focus on in your in your business over the next 90 days in order to move yourself forward? What are the top three things that you intend to focus on?
So the top three biggest things for me would be new lead generation. Number two would be lead nurture or follow up. And then I would say number three is actually working on continuing to keep my calendar somewhat flexible to be able to do the things that I need to do, including maybe potentially some new lead sources. So for me, it's new lead generation, lead follow-up or nurture, and then the third one would be mastering schedule to make sure that everything's operational.
Mastering schedules. Could we call that time management?
Perfect.
All right. Perfect. All right. And how did you choose those three things to focus on?
What I've found is those are the three pillars that tend to move my business where I want it to go. And when I'm operating at a super high level, those are the three things that are really clicking.
So experience has told you that if you master those three skills, then the business follows and things go well. Is that what I'm understanding?
Correct. Yep.
Excellent. So Nick, what I'd like to do is I'd like to share with you a tool that I use for real estate agents at all levels to help them take an inventory of their business. Okay. Now, the intent of taking an inventory of their business is twofold. Number one, it helps you from a business owner's perspective know where you're at today. And number two, it helps you identify exactly what you want to focus on over the course of the next 90 days so that you can move your business forward significantly. And I'll share a little bit more about the strategy and for later. And for those of you that are listening, I would encourage you to go through this exercise together as I walk through Nick through this conversation. So, Nick, when we look at an agent's real estate business, most oftentimes an agent's real estate business can be broken down into four different quadrants: productivity, growth, systems, and profitability. And within these four different quadrants of your business, there are different components that have the biggest influence in that quadrant. And so, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to go through each one of these 12 specific components of your business. And I'm going to ask you to rate each one of these sections on a scale from 1 to 10. Okay. Now, 1 means it needs major improvement, and 10 means you have mastered this skill. Okay.
Got
So
it.
let's start with lead generation. As it relates to lead generation, I want you to think of lead generation as a system. I want you to think of how effective it is, how efficient it is, how leveraged it is. I want you to think about how systematized it is. And on a scale from 1 to 10, how would you rate your lead generation in your business?
I'd say I'm about a 7.
And why do you say a 7?
Room for improvement would be getting some leverage within it. Right now, pretty much all of my lead generation is done by myself personally, whether it's cold calling or social media, whatever the lead source might be. So I think a big room of improvement is the leverage piece of it. And then I think another room of improvement would be the act itself with a bit more focus. So I have no problem getting it scheduled and putting it in. But if I'm going to time slot for 3 hours of lead generation, call it circle prospecting or calling expireds, whatever the case may be, an actual focus on, okay, that's all I'm doing for this 2 or 3 hours.
Okay. So those are things that would maybe take it from a 7 to a 9. What makes it a 7 right now? What's going well?
So right now my schedule consists of, depending on the day, a minimum of 2 hours that are specifically set towards lead generation and making outbound calls. And then it also includes about a half hour of social media or sphere of influence outreach. So a minimum of 2. Most days I'm around like 3. With that, it's Monday through Friday for me. So that is anywhere from, around 15 hours a week, Monday through Friday, where it is in my schedule. I am doing it, so it's very consistent. I also have multiple pillars for that. So I have different sources that I refer to as lead generation. So not just being on one specific lead source, but having a few different options to work from.
So what I'm hearing is that as a successful real estate agent, you've got consistency in your action and you've got multiple pillars of lead generation.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. If anybody's taking notes, I would write those things down. Okay. Let's move to time management. So you mentioned time management before. When I think of time management, I think of, do you have a calendar? Does your calendar reflect your goals? If I look at the last 2 weeks of your calendar, can I tell what your priorities were? Take the holidays out of the equation, of course. If I look at the next 2 weeks of your calendar, can I tell what your priorities are? Scale from 1 to 10, how would you rate your time management?
I would put it at an 8 or a 9. Couple of reasons why. Areas that I do really well in. If you did look at my calendar for the past year and for the upcoming year, I have specifically plotted out, number one, vacations or anything that I plan on taking. So times that I'm not going to be working, they're in there. And then on the days that I am working, I have a reoccurring basis on a weekly basis, everything that I'm going to be doing from 7 in the morning until 7:30 to 8. I have it very specifically planned out as far as what I do. It's color coordinated, the whole 9 yards. I did not start that way. I definitely did not start being calendar oriented, but it is definitely turned that way. The reason I say that I am an 8 or a 9 rather than a 10 is because oftentimes I tend to work past what I have in my calendar. So for me, some of the personal time with my wife and my two-year-old daughter, those are areas of improvement for me because I tend to work longer than what I've actually set aside, knowing that I need, to stick to some of the family side.
Okay. So what I heard is that you've got your calendar very well time blocked and organized and are very intentional about the amount of time that you allocate and that you have an idea of what your ideal day looks like.
100%.
And the opportunity is sticking to it and not going beyond that, especially when it comes at the sacrifice of yourself, your health, or your family.
Correct. 100%.
All right. I'm going to nail you down. Are we at an 8 or a 9?
Let's go 9.
We're going to
I'll
go
give
9.
myself a little more credit than I should, maybe.
Fair enough. And the third component of productivity, this is referrals. This is when we talk about other agents referring you, other clients referring you, other strategic vendors referring you. This is not just do you get referrals. This is, do you have a system around developing or getting referrals from all of those types of people? How well run is that system? How well funded is that system? What percentage of your business is referral based? Scale from 1 to 10, how would you rate referrals?
3.
3. Tell me, what is a 3?
So for me, a lot of, and this is a focus of mine in this year in 2025, I get a lot of natural or organic referrals. So deals with past clients, sphere of influence. Pretty much everyone knows me as a real estate agent within my world. And then obviously my past clients, I do client events. I do a decent job about asking for referrals when the time is appropriate, but definitely don't hit as many times as probably what I should. And again, everything is pretty organic. There's no outbound for me. There's no outbound action towards that, other than like if it comes up in natural conversation. So most of it is organic, inbound, nothing outbound, nothing asking for referrals for the most part, outside of just a normal conversation that I might have. And so along with that comes, I don't have a set schedule for it. I don't have, and that's a lead pillar for me going into 2025, that I have an area of focus on where I didn't before. It just naturally happened. Wasn't something that I went out and got. So along with that, I don't have a system in place. I don't have a follow-up in place. I don't have a, here's a 1, 2, 3 and month after they close month 3, I'm going to reach out, then 6, then 9. Like I don't have one around referrals specifically.
Okay. It sounds like you've identified through this conversation some ways that you could move from a 3 to just a 5.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. All right. Excellent. So that gives us a productivity quadrant score of 19. Let's move into growth. So the database, the sphere of influence, all of the people that you have in your world that you have relationships with, all of the people that aren't in your world that you want to have relationships, your cold database. Let's think about the utilization of the CRM, the organization, the maintenance. Let's think about how consistently you interact with the people that you already have relationships with. How do you bring them value? Scale from 1 to 10, how would you rate your database as a system?
I would say I'm probably close to 7.
Okay. What does a 7 look like?
So for me, I have time slotted out every day within my calendar, for database or for my SOI, specifically. I also have, twice a week where I clean up my database, where I intentionally go in for 15 to 30 minutes. And, for me, I use Follow Up Boss as well. I know Greg mentioned that's what they use. So I use Follow Up Boss, and it's intentionally tagging or intentionally putting together tasks and plans of when I'm going to follow up, what I'm going to follow up with. Um, I think some areas of growth for me would be, again, it kind of goes, for me, it kind of goes hand in hand with that referral. It's tactful information of what am I actually going to reach out and stay in contact with. I do run a couple of plays on a daily basis between social media and through text outreach to SOI, people I've never done deals with. But again, I look at database as well with the section below, which is vendor partners, past clients. I do a really good job with the people that I'm in communication with. Just, yeah, there's room for improvement for sure.
Excellent. And so let's jump into vendor partners. When I talk about vendor partners, I do not mean the list of 3 lenders that you send everybody. I don't mean your preferred mortgage person. I mean the vendor partners, those vendors that you truly are partnered with, that you are committed to sending them business. They are committed to sending you business. Sometimes they have investments in joint ventures, or sometimes they are providing you with resources or time in order to help you grow their business. And again, we're looking at the system, right? So not only do you have these, but do you love on them? Are they giving you what you need? Are you giving them what they want? Are you maintaining or growing those relationships? As a system, vendor partners, scale from 1 to 10.
I would give it about a 7 again.
Why a 7?
Continued relationship. I do have, I feel like I have, one for most necessity or most needs within the real estate transaction. So title, lender, inspection company, and appraiser if needed. And I do a good job of, giving them business, And anytime that it comes back around, they are good at referring as well, because they know that they are my number one. Treat them well with as far as giving them more business and more opportunities to at least get business. But I would also say the room for improvement is expanding on that, creating a bigger vendor list within different fields. And I would also say, probably area for improvement there is more of an intentional ask. Again, it goes back to that referrals section of, I don't intentionally ask. I give without the ask. And it has, worked out well for me with some referrals from it, but I don't think at a level that it could.
Yeah, when you set expectations of what a vendor partnership looks like, and the give and take is that, you give them however many opportunities. If you had 25 strategic vendors that each committed to delivering one transaction a year, that could radically change somebody's business. That would
Correct.
be a
Yeah,
25% increase in your business.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Let's talk about personal growth. So this is, what are you doing to grow Nick? It can be personally, it can be financially, it can be health wise, it can be business skills. But as a system, do you read books on a regular basis? Do you go to seminars? Do you seek out mentors and coaches? Do you have time devoted to developing the 6 inches between your ears? Scale from 1 to 10, what's your personal growth system look like?
I'd say I'm an 8 there.
Okay. What does an 8 look like?
I pretty much capitalize on everything that you mentioned. So personal growth, whether it be working out or my own health. I also read books or listen to books and podcasts on a daily basis. As far as coaching and getting mentors and different opportunities like that, I personally seek that out. I also connect with a lot of other agents just to see what's working in their business, from a business perspective. I think one area of opportunity for me would actually be more of the events like this, or just different events to go to, whether webinars or in person. I think that's a good opportunity for growth for me there. So yeah, I think that basically sums up the 8.
Okay. Let's move into the systems section of the business. So the first system, one of the most important systems, is transaction management. This is the process from when they go under contract to when they close. And as a system, I want you to think about, how effective is it? How efficient is it? What is the experience of the client as they go through this system? How leveraged is your transaction management? Scale from 1 to 10, how would you rate your transaction management?
I would give it an 8. I do well with having the systems in play. I don't do as well with as much leverage as probably I should. So for me, that looks like I have automated text messages and emails, depending on how the client likes to interact. I have in my calendar, I have daily touch points where I'm communicating with my clients, whether they reach out to me or not, first thing in the morning and the last thing of the day. Again, I have automated text messages. That could be as simple as, hey, okay, buyer just went under contract. Here's the next steps. It's a congratulations. Transaction coordinator's going to reach out to you. Here's the next steps as far as what it looks like. Just reminding them throughout the process. So I have different things in place, but a lot of that is me actively sending that. I do have a transaction coordinator. So a lot of that is being helped with and covered by someone else. But I think some of the daily touches could have a little bit more leverage.
Yeah. I appreciate that you mentioned that transaction coordinator. That is one of the most essential leverage components of any real estate business. One of the first things that agents should get off of their plate is transaction management. So thank you for
100%.
mentioning that. Client care. So this is when they are not in a transaction. This is when they are your clients. And I believe in clients for life. There's no such thing as a previous client. You're either a client for life or you're a client to be. And so from a client care perspective, think about Nick's Club. If all of your clients, all of the people that you have relationships with from a business perspective are part of your club, how do you love on them? What are the systems behind showing them appreciation, reaching out to them, providing them an experience outside of the transaction? Scale from 1 to 10.
Again, I would say an 8. So for myself personally, I do client events. I know Greg mentioned that as well. I hold 3 client events a year: fall, summer, and winter. So between client events, completely paid for opportunities, just to give them something as a part of a client for life feeling of, I appreciate your business and your referrals, and I want to, throw an event for you or a party for you. And so that's an option for them. I also have a 12-point 12-month touch that I have. So beginning of every single year, I print off a calendar, all 12 months, and I want every single month to be filled with one activity or one outreach. So three of those months is going to be the client event. Around Thanksgiving, I do a pie drop off where I have them come into my office and have the pie. I do a handwritten note at least once or twice. I'm reaching out to them. I'm in Michigan, so very seasonal. Today it feels like it's less than 20 degrees today. But there's a lot of different home maintenance things that go into that. So for me, I send out a seasonal home maintenance reminder of a checklist of here's what you should do, or here's what you should prepare for. For us, it could be as simple as in the winter, it's, check furnace filters, check smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. But it's also, if you leave on vacation, make sure that your heat's not lower than 65 degrees or else your pipes are going to freeze. There's different things that I do there. I send out 3 times a year. I'll offer a CMA. That could be for, in case there's 3 different reasons why I do that. It's number one, everybody wants to know the value of their home, whether they bought a month ago or 10 years ago. Could be an opportunity if they're thinking about selling. But then one of the most beneficial ones I've found is I reach out because it could give them an opportunity if they have PMI or private mortgage insurance. If they've gained some equity in their home, it could save them, 100, if not more, dollars a month if they found out that they have more equity than they do. So a lot of kind of some of the client care of just showing them that I'm there. And then I also do I do what I call my social 5. So or sorry, my SOI 5. So Monday through Friday, I go through my contacts in my phone, and I start at A. Today I'm going to start at A, and I'll pick the first 5 people within my phone contacts, whether they're past clients, current clients, or people that I want to work with. And I'll send them a video text message, 10, 15 seconds long, nothing about real estate, just touching base with them, see how they're doing, see how life is. So I send 5 video text messages a day just to let them know I'm here, I care, how you doing.
Awesome. Awesome. And then finally, last section of the profitability quadrant, follow up. So this is once somebody raises their hand and says, I might have an interest in working with you, to the moment that they sign an agreement, either listing or buyer, to commit to working with you. That process, how systematized is it? How leveraged is it? How efficient and effective is it? How would you rate your follow-up?
This one I like to be a little bit harder on myself. I would probably put myself around like a 6.
Okay.
Everything is outside of having, again, through Follow Up Boss, I have some tags in there. So I get hit on daily tasks of when I need to be reaching out or when I should, whether it's monthly, quarterly, whatever I put that tag to, or however I designate that specific client. So that's about the only leverage or automation piece of it. But you miss that, and you miss a big opportunity. And it's me personally doing it, which is not at all a bad thing, but probably having some automation or some leverage behind it would help me tremendously with follow up. Also, one of the big things is, like I said, averaging a little over 100 transactions a year. It gets pretty hectic with new clients, new leads. So things do fall through the cracks. So just trying to, narrow that down. And that's a goal of mine this year as well, is really narrowing in that follow up.
Excellent. Thank you for that. We are rolling into the final quadrant. This is the profitability quadrant. And so the first component of the profitability quadrant is net worth. And when I talk about net worth, I do not mean, do you have all the money that you want to have? Okay. What I mean by net worth is, do you know what your net worth is? Do you have a system to review your net worth? Do you have things in place to increase your net worth? Do you have multiple revenue streams? How much of your revenue is passive versus active? And do you have specific investment strategies? So, bundled all up into one big ball, how would you rate your net worth above or not including? Do you have all the money that you want to have?
I would probably put it at a 6.
Okay.
Um, I will put it at a 6, and I think the biggest window of opportunity for me is the knowing and tracking portion. Um, I have a rough roundabout, just knowing where I'm at, but it's definitely not something that I track on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or annual basis. I just have a rough idea of where it's at. But I do have, I own rental properties. Through my brokerage, I have a few different passive income opportunities as well, in addition to the real estate investing. Um, so I think the biggest area of opportunity for me is the tracking and following.
Excellent. Next component is budget. And so the budget is the system around knowing what future casting, what your expenses are, knowing exactly how much it's going to cost for you to be in business for the next 1, 3, 6, and 12 months. Actually budgeting for growth. So not just maintaining, but actually growing your organization. This involves the system of creating your budget, reviewing your budget, having somebody hold you accountable to your budget. Scale from 1 to 10, how would you rate your budget as a system?
I would say probably a 7.
Okay. What are
Uh,
some of the highlights with regards to your budgeting system?
yeah, so I have a I have a I am the budgeting character between myself and my wife, 100%. I have an Excel spreadsheet. I know exactly what my monthly expenses are going to be from a personal standpoint, but also a business standpoint. I do have it set up for the year. I do follow it very well, and I usually stay about 2 or 3 months ahead of time with all of that. As far as actual money for the budget. Um, but I don't have someone to keep me accountable. Like I said, I'm the one at this point in time keeping myself accountable. Um, and I think that there's windows for opportunity, especially in the forward thinking or the few years down the road of what that's going to look like.
So projecting for growth.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. And then finally, P&L. So if budget is looking through the front window, the P&L is looking out the rear view mirror. So the P&L will tell you how profitable your organization is. It'll tell you how closely you stuck to your budget. And so from a systems perspective, we talk about leverage. We talk about having clarity around your numbers on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annually basis. We talk about, again, holding yourself or having somebody else hold you accountable to the P&L and identifying areas where you may be running too fat or areas where you may be running too lean in your expenses or your income. Scale from 1 to 10, how would you rate your P&L as a system?
I would put it right in line with budget as well, probably a 7, and for all of the same reasons.
You know what they are. You just need the accountability. Do you have a CPA or an accountant, or are you highly
Yep.
leveraged?
Yep. I use that. Yep.
Okay. And you have an online system, QuickBooks or the like, that it gives you access to all that information
Yep, I
pretty
do have a
much at a
tracking
glance,
system
right?
as well. Yep,
Yep.
yep. It's just the accountability piece, and I think the scalability piece, and probably even the coaching piece of it to say, hey, here's somebody else to take a look at it and help you along the way to say you're on pace to do X, but we want to get to Y, and here's where we need to go with that.
Perfect. So, Nick, as you look at this wheel, do you feel that this is an accurate representation of where your business sits today as a real estate agent?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's from personal perspective, looking at it right now. Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate.
Anything that stands out to you?
The areas that it's good to see it broken up like this, because the areas that I knew I needed work on, it's pretty clear. It makes it gives you the opportunity, like referrals being dramatically under where everything else is at. And the things that I thought I did well at, this exercise gave me the opportunity to say, okay, maybe if you actually do it and you're true to it, it shows you're probably not as, not as good as what you thought you were. If you thought you were a 10, hearing it, just hearing how you broke it down gives you an opportunity to say, okay, I'm not a 10.
Yeah, absolutely. So based upon this conversation, if there was something that you were going to put massive intention towards over just the next 90 days, that doing so would have a ripple effect, right? You put massive attention towards something and two or three other things change as a result. What would that one thing be that you would think should deserve your massive attention just over the course of the next 30 days? And just to move 1 or 2 points.
I think number one, the most glaring one is the referrals being so far under where everything else is at. But I also think that it goes for that piece alone, that for me, I can see that moving the needle pretty substantially as far as this business and income production.
Okay. And if there was a second thing that you would want to put specific intention around as a result of this conversation, what would that be?
Follow up, but a close like 2B would be my lead generation.
Okay. All right. So, Nick, thank you very much, first off, for being transparent and vulnerable and candid through this conversation. And open yourself up like that can sometimes be uncomfortable. Where I would go from here, Nick, is that I would typically spend a little bit more time deep diving into the referral component of your business and maybe 1 or 2 other areas. Really do an in-depth audit of those systems, and then from there, I would help you through a process of creating just a plan for 90 days, just some specific action items that you could take to move the needle 1 or 2 notches to make a massive improvement in that area to see. And then 90 days from now, I would take you back through the entire exercise again. Because what sometimes happens is that when you put focus in one area, something else improves, right?
Yep.
Also, what sometimes happens is if you put in focus in one area, some other areas decline. And so using this process every 90 days will help you and everybody else that's listening here, help you take an inventory every 90 days, identify really what should be your primary focus over the course of those 90 days, and then put together a plan of what action to take.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you very much for participating in this. I'd like to open it up to the group. What are some of the things that you heard, or what are some of the things that resonated with you as I walked Nick through this process? What are some of your takeaways?
Well, I have one. Specifically, I was going through this as Nick was at the same time, and even though I'm not an actively practicing agent, I can apply this to my own part of the business. And I noticed a bunch of holes, and I'm sure a lot of us maybe are feeling maybe a little less than. We have Nick's a superstar, and he's crushing it in so many different areas. What would you say for some of us that scored ourselves low in a number of categories?
Nick, let me ask you a question. If I had run this exercise with you 3 years ago, what would your scores have looked like?
All sub 5
All sub 5.
and probably closer to like 3s.
Okay. And did you change all of them at once?
No.
And did all of them change at the rate that you expected them to?
No. No.
No. Right. And so my answer to that question, and this kind of goes along the lines of Beth's comment, what a mess her business is. It is not that your business is a mess. This is an opportunity to decide what your growth pattern is going to be. Decide what the next step is. There's so much in real estate. that we have to deal with, that we can always look to improve. It can get overwhelming. If you've ever read the book, The 12-Week Year, you would recognize the power of chunking your intention down into 90-day increments. Because if you take 12 weeks or 90 days and focus on just one or two really important, really impactful components of your business, you can radically change. Now, to Beth's question, if all of your answers is sub 5, where do you start? Where should your first focus be? My answer to that is number one, what is the most impactful to revenue right now? First and foremost, the first component of building a business is creating and growing revenue and income. And so if your biggest deficiencies are in lead generation or referrals or work in your database, those are revenue activities. I would start there.
I also want to second, if I can, I want to second the 12-week year. I highly recommend reading or listening to that book. That book, that's the trajectory that I got on when I did start to intentionally change how I manage my business, how I set my goals, and this is a really good time of year to do it. Highly recommend that book.
Yeah. Yep. Any other questions, feedback, any other ahas or takeaways?
Did anyone score themselves higher than they might have by thinking about this in the way that Brent presented? And while we're waiting for some other answers, both Brent and Nick, other book recommendations.
Oh, I've got 1,000 of them. The book that I just mentioned is called The 12-Week Year. Oh man, I could give you book names. Narrow it down. The person that asked that question, give me some specific, narrow the scope a little bit. Time,
I have a
money.
handful handful as it pertains, obviously, to real estate agents. The book Skill and the book Scale, both by David Green, really good books, practical implementation style books that speak specifically. So Skill is the first book in that series, and then Scale is the second book. And again, it's specifically speaking to real estate agents, as he's a real estate agent as well.
By the way, shout out to David Green. He's been on our show. Wonderful guy, just a amazing guy.
I would say another one for agents specifically would be The Agent's Edge by Jordan Cohen. Top producing real estate agent, very high producing real estate agent, has a really creative way of presenting himself and how he works his business. So that's a really good one as well.
Jordan's the #1 real estate agent in the world, and just couldn't be a nicer guy. And you could ask him things and he will reply to you. He's been on our show as well.
I'll give you, if I had two just off the top of my head recommendations for you, the first one would be The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, MREA. It is chock full of fundamentals, and it's full of just simple blueprints to get your business started. And then the next one would be, and this is kind of a carryover from the previous conversation. I think there was a question about what you can do to intentionally work on your mindset. The Miracle Morning, and specifically the Savers Morning, or the Savers Plan. That's what I use when I am at my highest level, is the Savers process. But the Miracle Morning is definitely a book that I would recommend. I would like to make an offer to Nick and to all of the readers, or I'm sorry, all of the listeners. Nick, first and foremost, I'd like to continue the conversation. So I'd like to offer to you specifically, if you would like to get some time on my calendar, I would like to chat and maybe help you identify some 90-day goals based around the conversation that we've had, go through that audit process. The offer that I would make to any of the listeners is, if you went through that agent wheel process with me and you have your 12 scores, if you want to email me those 12 scores, then I will send you an audit for one or two of those areas that you want to focus on. And if you complete those audit questions, then I will make an opportunity for a one-on-one coaching session for you as well. So if you want to, I'm going to put a little bit of work on your plate. I'm going to ask you to do a little bit of upfront stuff. But if you send me an email with your wheel scores, tell me which one or two areas you want to focus on, and you complete that audit, I'd like to spend some time with you. So DJ, definitely share my email in the recap and all of the things that go along with the recording. And thank you for the opportunity to spend some time. Nick, again, I appreciate you today, sir. It's been great meeting you and a pleasure chatting with you. And if there's anything that I can do to serve you, please reach out to me and let me know.
Yeah, thank you. It was a pleasure, and thanks for running me through that. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. Let's give Brent and Nick. Boy, it's not easy to be on the hot seat, and Nick did it, and he did it really well. And so let's give him a thanks in the chat, and also just have a few comments. You know, Nick is a top producer, and probably a lot of us who are watching are not yet top producers, and maybe not all of us want to be top producers, but we certainly want to grow our business, I'm sure, to some degree. And you know, Nick listens to our podcast. He is open to coaching. He reached out and said, "Hey, you know, I appreciate the work that I do for the show. This is somebody who is really engaged in the industry, and I hope that, you know, if we think about a top agent doing 100 plus homes a year, he's got a coach, or he wants a coach, or he needs a coach. You probably should consider having one as well. Professional athletes all have coaches, and they're the best in the world. Jordan Cohen, who he mentioned from Remax, he has a coach. He's the #1 guy in the world for Remax. All of the top agents I interview, and I'm sure there maybe is one exception out of hundreds and hundreds I've had on the show. All of them, to my knowledge, have coaches. So it's something that you really should consider. We have coach here at our business. Brent is our coach to help us with our business. We needed it. We should have done it a long time ago. And please don't make the mistake that we made by not having a coach. It was a horrible mistake for us. And you know, we just tried to do everything ourselves. Don't let that happen. Get some help. We all need help.
Yeah, and I'll leave with one parting tip. Success leaves clues. And so if you want to be successful, Nick is giving you quite a few clues to his success. And I'm not saying that Nick's way is the best way, but he's giving you some clues as to things that it takes in order to be successful. So you might want to clue into some of those.
We will also be sending out a summary of all of the sessions, including some of the tips that Nick shared. So we're also going to get him on the podcast because I want to hear more about these systems. He sounds like he's got some incredible systems that I want to share in deeper at a deeper level with all of you. So Nick, thank you for making yourself known to me. This was such a perfect opportunity for us, and it just came at the exact right time where I was like, oh, I've got something. Because Brent said, we were talking behind the scenes, and he goes, well, I can do it with everybody, but it would be really effective for the audience to see what somebody's experience is as they go through it. And Nick was just the perfect guy to do it. And so thank you to Nick. Obviously, Brent, unbelievable work there. He's got some other things that he can share with all of you. Consider working with him. You know, send him your agent wheel. We're also going to send that out to you. We're going to send out that PDF for you so you can actually fill in the blanks there, and you can send that to Brent, and then he will start you on the process of seeing if coaching is the right fit. But on behalf of everyone here, boy, that just blew me away. And I hope everyone, and the other thing, I'll mention one last thing, is that for all of us that are like feeling a little down, like, oh, there's so many parts of my business, that's normal. That's okay. That's a great place to start, and honor yourself for doing hard work. It is not easy to stand naked in front of the mirror, right? It is not fun. Nobody likes to do it, but you know, Nick just did that for us. And so, you know, you basically did the same thing following along. That doesn't always make you feel good, but this is the first step towards making those changes. So congratulations to everybody who followed along. That was hard work. You should be a little exhausted. All right, we're going to take a few minutes of break. We'll be back in 10 minutes. So everyone go enjoy themselves, relax. Thank you to Brent, and thank you to Nick again. And we'll be sharing all of their contact information in the follow-up so that you can not only do the agent wheel, send it to Brent, but also reach out to Nick and converse with him. That's a guy I would want to connect with, especially around referrals, right? Are you people that are your clients people that maybe come from the Michigan area? Well, if you live in Florida, that's probably a good reason to connect with him. But anyway, let's reach out and connect and keep sharing all these great tips, as Nick just basically did for us. Unbelievable. So Brent, thank you. And Nick, thank you as well.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, DJ.